Kerblam seems to be the one episode that gets somewhat of a pass from the Series 11 detractors, which I always find interesting because it's far from the best the series has to offer. Granted, it's far from the worst, but I think what it comes down to more than anything is Kerblam is considered the most quintessentially Who-ish story of the series, if such a thing exists. This clip from the Master Whovians sums it up well.
Kerblam, I think, is a classic New Who story, if that makes, which is a way to say a classic New Who, but, you know, if you look at New Who, if someone said to me, describe New Who, I'd say, just watch Kerblam. That is New Who.
I like Kerblam.
Now, I don't really subscribe to the notion of a set formula for what a Doctor Who episode has to be. The show's been going for nearly 60 years and there's been many different things in that time, from sci-fi James Bond to gothic horror, from angsty melodrama to whimsical fairy tale. But I get it. The deadly innocuous object of the week, in this case bubble wrap, is a very well-trodden Doctor Who trope, and the capitalist conspiracy setup is instantly recognisable from the modern era in particular. Now, all of these motifs being here, I argue, is a very deliberate ploy on the part of writer Pete Matting, and what the episode does with those elements is both its genius and its downfall. Fun fact, Kerblam is actually quite a difficult episode for me to revisit due to past trauma. Back when I was job hunting, I went through a period of depression in which I became disillusioned with the multitude of contradictions and double standards when it comes to the employment market. Like, for instance, the way you're talked down to in interviews and treated like working for the employer is some enormous privilege that you have to prove you are worthy of, despite the fact that having a job is a basic expectation and requirement to function in our society and shouldn't be a privilege at all. Seriously, that whole attitude can go die in a smoking crater. One part of the episode that hits especially close to home for me is during the induction, when intergalactic Amazon stand-in Kerblam's head of personnel Jodie Maddox says it's not hard to keep the employees happy because everyone is so grateful just to have jobs. Now that is seriously messed up. The idea that people will not only put up with mistreatment and misery in the workplace, but be grateful for being in that environment. You know those privileged assholes who tell shop floor workers to put on a smile regardless of how many hours they've been drudging away, or what other stresses or mental health issues they may be experiencing, because you're lucky to have this job, you should appreciate it. It's like Kerblam saw that and decided to play it straight and present it as reality. And that would be fine, if the episode actually acknowledged how screwed up it is and riffed on it a bit more. I mean, sure, the Doctor stands up for her co-workers when they are being mistreated, but that's about it. She even flat out questions why humans are employed in such a repetitive task that could easily be done by machines in the first place, which is a very good point. If human labour is no longer needed and has been supplanted by machines, then why are people still financially dependent on having these jobs? Surely just artificially creating more jobs is fixing a symptom, not addressing the root of the problem. The episode brings up a lot of uncomfortable quandaries like this and then doesn't follow up on any of it. And the reason why it doesn't follow up is that all of it was really just a red herring to make the Doctor and the audience suspect the corrupt capitalist system, when shock horror, it was the system calling for help the whole time, and the revolutionary fighting the capitalists is actually the villain. Now, I appreciate a sympathetic, morally misguided antagonist. For an example of this done really well, look at Invasion of the Dinosaurs. Seriously, if you can get past the crappy dinosaur effects, there's a great conspiracy story in which the Doctor's ally from UNIT, Mike Yates, gets involved with a deranged group of radical environmentalists who want to reverse time, leading to a dramatic confrontation in the final episode, one which is very much echoed by the Doctor and Charlie's exchange in Kerblam. And I'll admit there is something quite ingenious about the subversion. The episode cleverly uses context to its advantage by having all the hallmarks of an era when capitalism was sometimes quite literally the villain every other week. But the more I think about it, the more I just can't get over the fact it is not okay people are grateful for having the bare minimum. It is not okay there are no checks on the capitalist power. Just because they're not at fault this once doesn't mean there isn't corruption, and I don't know if this is deliberate or something overlooked when this was scripted, but it is not okay that Kerblam closes for a month and the workers only get 2 weeks paid leave. It's not like addressing these things would have taken away from the conflict. If anything, it would have strengthened the overall theme of does the end justify the means. What makes it more disappointing is all of the tools were there to address it. The teammates, for example, are a creepy design, instantly reminiscent of the Smilers or the host from what I'm going to label the capitalism bad era of Doctor Who, but with their strange corporate banter, cheery fake smiles and obsession with efficiency, they are also very much like an exaggeration of the kind of unrealistic vision employers have of the perfect model employee. You know, the kind that you have to pretend to be in interviews, a smiling, handshaking, soulless husk of a real person. There's an opportunity for some seriously hard-hitting satire here, but like in Orphan 55, it's like the episode just blunders on towards its nice tidy conclusion without being aware of its own thematic devices. That's really the recurring theme with Kerblam, wasted potential. The episode we got is fine, it's entertaining, it's functional, but it could have been so much more. Instead, it took the easy route.